Welcome to the Official Personality Guru. ENFJs are deeply concerned with how the people around them are feeling and are often in tune with the emotional atmosphere of the room they are in. They can be very good at reading people and often have a strong sense of what people need. Driven by an intense inner vision of how the world could be, they're motivated to make positive changes in the lives of those around them. At their best, ENFJs are compassionate, altruistic, and highly effective leaders. They're often able to see both the big picture and get people on board to make the world a better place. They're good at mobilizing people and resources to achieve their vision. When ENFJs are unhealthy, they can become extremely focused on other people's problems to the point where they forget their own needs. They can become codependent, enablers, or rescuers. They may try to control those around them in an attempt to keep the peace. This often leads to conflict as people feel suffocated by the ENFJ's well-meaning but overbearing attempts to control the situation. Today, let's talk about ENFJ under stress, shadow mode, the ENFJ's unhealthy dark side. Before we start, make sure to subscribe to the Official Personality Guru and ring the bell icon to get regular updates on our latest uploads. And if you like this video, click the thumbs up button and share it with your friends. The MBTI is largely based on the work of Swiss psychologist Carl Jung, and each of the 16 Myers-Briggs personality types represent what he referred to as the conscious ego. Jung believed that throughout each person's personality development, the conscious ego will naturally determine what it does and does not accept as part of its ego identity. Consequently, the qualities that we reject in ourselves will get pushed to the back heap of our unconscious. The unconscious part of our psyche is what Jung described as the shadow. The shadow is a concept used to explain aspects of our personality that we deny and ignore in ourselves. The shadow is not necessarily evil and can be very positive when properly harnessed and integrated with our ego identity. However, when we choose to remain ignorant of our shadow, it can wreak havoc and act destructively. Areas in which we are personally inferior or deficient are subject to being projected onto others by our shadow. Our shadow is also responsible for our negative prejudices about qualities we observe in others and despise in ourselves. Because the shadow is typically not recognized or accepted as part of the ego identity, its manifestation often goes overlooked or compartmentalized. Jungian psychologist John Beebe later conceptualized the shadow as archetypal roles embodied by the cognitive functions not included in each MBTI type. In the case of the ENFJ, these functions are FI, NE, SI, and TE and form a kind of negative version of the INFP. Here is a look at how the ENFJ's shadow functions play out. For the ENFJ, high-stress situations tend to happen somewhat often since they take on a lot of responsibility themselves. This can cause the ENFJ to feel overwhelmed if it goes on for too long without any type of reprieve. They try their best to maintain balance and tend to the needs of everyone in their lives. This can become overwhelming for anyone. For the ENFJ, having to constantly take care of others causes them to neglect their own needs, which can be the very reason they go into their shadow for a while. This can cause the ENFJ to behave much differently than they normally do, and is often confusing for their loved ones and themselves. The ENFJ's function. The dominant function of the ENFJ is their FE or extroverted feeling, which causes them to be very focused on the emotions and needs of others. ENFJs have a natural and often powerful sense of what other people are feeling and experiencing. They care about the people around them and strive to make them happy and please them in any way they can. This causes the focus of the ENFJ to be more on those around them and what they want, rather than looking inward for things. They don't focus much on their wants and needs, but rather on creating harmony in their environment and ensuring everyone around them is properly cared for. While this function causes the ENFJ to be caring and compassionate, it can be what causes them to burn out sometimes. The auxiliary or second function of the ENFJ is their NI or introverted intuition, which is more prominent for them than people realize. This function helps ENFJ find solutions to their problems and figure out the best path toward the future they want to create. They care about doing the right thing for their loved ones and will go above and beyond to make them happy. ENFJs work hard for those around them, and they use their sense of intuition to gain perspective. This intuition takes in information and subconsciously works through all of this to come up with predictions for most likely future outcomes. This helps the ENFJ connect with people even more since they can get an idea of how to help them in so many ways. The tertiary or third function for the ENFJ is their SE or extroverted sensing. For the ENFJ, this can be a difficult function to connect with sometimes since they naturally focus on what is going on inside of their minds. They sometimes use this to recognize changes and things about their loved ones. They can notice a little difference in their appearance and use this as a way to understand and even show appreciation for them. There are some connections to the physical world which can be hard for the ENFJ, but they do have an appreciation for beautiful things. This comes from their SE, which is naturally more in tune with the visually aesthetic things. The inferior or fourth function of the ENFJ is their TI or introverted thinking. This is how the ENFJ processes facts and information, but they don't allow this to control most of their behaviors. They still store and retain this information, and when they are focusing on something which requires directness, they certainly utilize this TI. It isn't that the ENFJ's thinking function is not important to them, they simply focus more on their dominant function and care about being sensitive to the needs of those around them. Sometimes, they will push aside the more logical choice because they want to be sure they don't hurt someone's feelings. How about you as an ENFJ or any other personality type? When under stress or in your shadow mode, what are your unhealthy dark sides? Be sure to watch until the end and share your experience for a chance to have your comment pinned. In their shadow. When the ENFJ is in their shadow, their dominant FE becomes more focused on FI or introverted feeling. For the ENFJ, focusing inward isn't quite as natural when it comes to their own emotions and inner needs. They're much more focused on caring for others. So when this happens, it can turn on them in less healthy ways. The ENFJ can focus on self-blame, and this inner voice becomes a somewhat negative one. Instead of looking at themselves and searching for their own beliefs, when they are in their shadow, they become angry at themselves. They might never feel good enough, constantly judging their own choices and actions. This can also cause the ENFJ to appear much more judgmental of those around them, only seeing their flaws where they would normally see the good in them. This makes it difficult for the ENFJ to be around others since normally they're affectionate and compassionate people. The auxiliary function of the ENFJ shifts from their usual NI to using NE or extroverted intuition. While the ENFJ is normally connected to this inner intuitive ability, they might start to search for outside patterns instead. If they have felt this intuition challenged by people who want some sort of evidence, they may feel under attack. When this happens, the ENFJ starts to search for outside patterns and answers to explain their conclusions. They try to search for these means of understanding themselves in ways they normally would not. This can cause more confusion for the ENFJ since they start to see far too many potential outcomes and patterns. Seeing all of these potential outcomes is not natural for the ENFJ since their NI helps them find the one best suited for them without needing to search outwardly so much. The tertiary function, or SE, starts to shift towards SI or introverted sensing. This isn't natural for the ENFJ, and so it can turn a bit unhealthy when they are in their shadow. This can cause the ENFJ to look at past connections and memories in a more negative light. Instead of being able to see the good things they have accomplished or experienced, they only recognize the bad and the pain. They might draw out traumatic situations, even remembering the details far worse than they were. This causes the ENFJ's sense of the past to be far more critical and can make them fearful of moving forward as well. The ENFJ or TI becomes shifted towards TE or extroverted thinking, which makes them much more critical. The normally sensitive and considerate ENFJ becomes direct and even aggressive. In hopes of getting things done efficiently, they can become short-tempered and might find themselves snapping at their loved ones. This can be the most toxic of their shadow functions when it is in full focus, causing the ENFJ to only see their goals and nothing else. They become focused on details and facts, wanting to get things correct but not entirely capable of seeing the big picture. They become on edge with people who aren't doing things perfectly, which is very unlike their usual behaviors. Before we continue, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to give us a like and share it with your friends. Subscribe to the Official Personality Guru for more amazing videos. Don't forget to ring the bell icon to stay updated with our content. Why this happens. This shadow mode often occurs when the ENFJ is under extreme stress and their own needs have been unchecked for too long. They find themselves feeling on edge constantly and cannot quite find balance in their daily lives. They go in their shadow to shift or force a change in their lives, but it can certainly be a messy process for them. When the ENFJ is in their shadow, they do not feel like themselves and often need time away from others and the stress in their environment. This can also occur when it seems like the ENFJ's normal means of accomplishing goals just aren't working or are being constantly challenged. In this situation, the ENFJ may need to retreat and find other means of solving these struggles. It can certainly be presented in unhealthy ways and might cause the people around the ENFJ to feel concerned about their behaviors. The ENFJ likely needs time away and needs to find a way of recuperating from whatever has dragged them so far down into their shadow.